Okay, so I'm going to do a response video to Frankie's free range meat. Now, I wanted this to be a bit more of a general kind of video about free range and organic labelling, because I don't really think there's any need to slate Frankie's company in any way. And I think a lot of the terms he uses to advertise his business are used by a number of other companies, like small butcher shops, like people on farmers markets. So he uses the terms locally sourced and free range quite a lot throughout his, business website. So I wanted to go over what those terms actually mean in reality. The first one is local. Local has no predetermined distance. So it says here on the USDA website, there is no predetermined distance to define what customers consider local, but a set number of miles from a centre point of a state or local boundaries are often used. So this means you could have locally sourced meat from somewhere in Europe. I live in the UK, for example, so you could say locally sourced if the meat was from Italy. So locally sourced doesn't actually mean anything in reality. Also, according to the definition of free-range meat, it only applies to free-range chickens, but not eggs and other animal products. As it says here on a website for small businesses who are obviously selling their own free-range meat and other animal products. So, free range often refers to food, obviously. However, the term free range brings to mind open spaces with animals living in nature, eating natural foods and soaking up the sunlight. There is no government regulations in place in the US to ensure this is the case. Therefore, it is important for producers to be clear about what they mean when they say their food is free range. The USDA has defined the term free range only for chickens and not for eggs and other livestock. For chickens, free range means birds must have access to the outdoors for an undetermined period of each day. So if you let your chickens out for 10 minutes each day and the rest of the time they spent inside trying to fatten them up, you could define your birds as free range. And you could also define meat and such as pork and cow as free range if they were kept indoors their whole life. Also, you could define eggs as free range if they were kept indoors their whole life as well. So in reality, when you have companies like Frankie's company or you have a small butcher shop saying that they sell free range locally sourced meat, it doesn't actually mean it's free range or even locally sourced. The second thing I wanted to go into is if you're really interested in animal welfare, I would say some of the best things to do are buy Certified Humane, which is a humane standard in the USA. It defines kind of free range meat and other animal products. However, for their free range chickens, they allow up to 15 birds per metre. So yeah, it's not very much space for them to move around or anything, to be honest. And also, they allow their slaughterhouse standards are defined by the RSPCA. And the RSPCA allows handheld electrical stunning. It allows neck dislocation and captive bolt. So obviously neck dislocation is a terrible process, and this is likely to happen if you're buying locally sourced meat from a small holding farm. It's very graphic. Particularly, I've seen this done quite a lot with male chicks as well, having their necks dislocated. And if you buy kind of like free range, obviously it will come from the same breeders who will dislocate the necks of the male chicks. So yeah, it's not really a very nice process at all. The second thing I wanted to get into is actually the welfare standards for beef. Here it says, managers must be aware of the welfare implications of calving, injection, oral dosing, dehorning, identification procedures, castration and foot trimming, breeding procedures and teat removal. It doesn't actually, just so that it doesn't say anything about these producers actually using anaesthetic or pain relief on these animals while castrating them. So it's not really very nice at all, to be honest. So yeah, I just think if you are someone who's an omnivore and you're going to use this kind of like free range, locally sourced business, try and actually find out what these things mean, and try and find companies that actually have animal welfare standards, and find out what these animal welfare standards are, because they aren't really good enough, to be honest. Anyway, all of these articles make me rather sad, because you always find something new which is interesting, but at the same time it just makes you like really sad about what happens to the animals. So yeah, I think everyone should try and do the research. And anyway, thank you for watching, guys, and please subscribe and like this video, and check out my ebook, link in the description.